unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace. Let's start with our usual meditation. Meditation on the witness. The technique is always to use whatever arises, not to think of that, but to become aware of that which is witnessing that arising. It's like when I see this, my attention normally goes to this object and I say it's a duster or an eraser. But what I'm asking you to do is that when I see this or indeed any other thing, let us become aware as if I'm becoming aware. Oh, my eyes are open. I am seeing with my eyes. The object is not important. The fact that I'm seeing with the eyes is important. Exactly in the same way. It's an example. Exactly in the same way. Any thought that comes up in my awareness, let that reflect my awareness. Let me become aware of awareness. 24th verse. As you should have a chant. Kamadhyashchittaga Drsya Viveka. You want to repeat? You can repeat that very good. Kamadhyashchittaga Drsya Kamadhyashchittaga Drsya Tatsakshittvena Chetanam Tatsakshittvena Chetanam Dhyaye Drishyanuvidhoyam Dhyaye Drishyanuvidhoyam Samadhi Savikalpakaha Samadhi Savikalpakaha Kamadhyashchittaga Drsya. All the objects which arise in the mind. Look at the language. Drishya, object of knowledge. Chittaga, which arise in the mind. What arises in the mind? Desire, anger, peace, understanding, lack of understanding, memory, identity, pleasure, pain. All these arise and disappear in the mind. Usually our attention is focused on them. Anger, I am angry. Pleasure, I am happy. Desire, I want. This is what happens to us all the time. But what is being asked of us now is, don't flow with the flow of thought. Use the flow of thought. Tat sakshittvena chetanam. Become aware. It is in the light of the witness that this thought has arisen. The presence and absence of thoughts is illumined by the witness. Become aware of the witness. You cannot catch the witness as it is directly, because after all you are the witness. But you can become aware of it. Language fails to do justice at this point. Dhyaye Drishyanuvidhoyam. Meditate thus with the help. The language is so precise here. Let me see if I can translate. Drishyanuvidhoyam. Drishya means object of knowledge. Anuvidha means with the help of. It's like with the help of this book I am becoming aware not of the book. That's usually what I do. But now I am becoming aware of my eyes with the help of this book. Similarly, with the help of the thought, become aware of the consciousness, of the witness of the thought. This is one type of samadhi. We will learn more as we go along. And then what will happen? Once you become aware of the witness, use a set of words. Affirm this, note this about the witness. Note this about the witness. Asanga Satchidananda. Asanga Satchidananda. Swaprabho Dvaita Varjita. Swaprabho Dvaita Varjita. Asmiti Shabda Vidhoyam. Asmiti Shabda Vidhoyam. Samadhi Savikalpakaha. Samadhi Savikalpakaha. Asmiti, I am. What am I? That witness. Asanga Asmi. I am completely unattached. Not trying to be unattached. Let us note this about the witness consciousness. It is unattached. You cannot have it otherwise. You try to get attached also, you cannot be attached. Whatever you are attached to will go away. Every day in the night it goes away. In deep sleep. Everything, the universe goes away from you. So the witness consciousness is unattached. Satchidananda. It is pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss. How is that pure existence, consciousness, bliss? Pure consciousness we can understand so far. How is it pure existence and pure bliss? We shall learn later. We have not yet covered that. Swaprabha, self-luminous. It shines and therefore everything else in the world is revealed. Dvaita Varjita. There is no second to it. It is the only reality. How is that the only reality? After all, we have just talked about the mind and the body and the world, and there are so many millions and billions of realities. Why is the witness self the only reality? Again, to come. You have to keep watching the show. It will be revealed gradually. Asmiti, this is what I am. Shabda Vidha, with the support of Vedantic texts. Shabda, text. What text? This Vedantic text. What Vedantic text? Asanga, Satchidananda, Swaprabha, Dvaita Vajjito Asmi. I am the unattached witness, existence, consciousness, bliss, self-luminous, non-dual, devoid of duality. This is the Vedantic text. How are we using it? We are using it to indicate the witness within. We are affirming it of the witness within. If you do not see it, just affirm it. But the objective here is not just to affirm. It's not like positive self-affirmation, not like that. It's to say, just like if I say, I am Swami Sarvapriyananda, I'm just repeating a fact about myself, which I think is true. Similarly, we are asked here to say about ourselves, I am Asanga, unattached. I am Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. I am Dvaita Varjita, devoid of duality. I am Swaprabha, self-luminous consciousness. This is Shabda Vidha, with the support of a Vedantic text. Why is this done? Because once you have used an object, a thought, to become aware of the witness. Now the tendency is always to slip back into thoughts, all the time. When you slip back into a thought, use that thought to come back to the witness. When you come back to the witness, to ground yourself in the witness. You are always grounded in the witness, but we keep slipping away. To ground ourselves in the witness, this text is used. Even this will be abandoned a little later. We are not going to that now. Ground yourself. We have to ground ourselves in the witness to stay there. For that, this text is useful. Let's do it for a minute. Slowly open your eyes. There are reminiscences of Swami Vivekananda teaching meditation, Raja Yoga, Patanjali Yoga, to students in New York. And then after teaching, he would say, let us practice and sit for meditation. And that's it. They would sit 10 minutes, 15 minutes and sort of slowly open their eyes to take a look at Swamiji is sitting like a rock there, like a statue. 1 hour. 2 hours, 3 hours. They would slowly get up and quietly leave the room till the room would be completely empty, and Swamiji would be sitting there in samadhi. He used to have a series of, I think Sister Nivedita mentions, little samadhis throughout the day. He would sit in a tram car in New York to go to the class, where he would go to the class. And then the tram car would, was it in New York or San Francisco? I don't know. But did they have the tram cars in New York in those days?
Yes.
They had. Yes. So he would sit in that, and it would go past his stop. And then he would go and take the whole trip around to the tram's shed, where it would be completely empty. The whole city has been covered, and he would come out of it startled. And he writes himself that, oh, his reminiscence is there, that he was ashamed of it. Slipping away into a trance. We struggled so hard, and they struggled not to slip away into it. Now, I know that I promised to speak about the different paths of spiritual practice and their relation to what we are studying. And I will do that. But first, let's make some progress. Let's make some progress today, learn a little more, cover a couple of more verses, and then come back to that subject. Verse number 8. Verse number 8. Ahankarasya tadadmyam, ahankarasya tadadmyam, chichaya deha sakshibhi, chichaya deha sakshibhi, sahajam karmajam bhranti, sahajam karmajam bhranti, janyam cha trividham kramat, janyam cha trividham kramat. The ego is identified with the reflection of consciousness, with the body, and with the witness. The three kinds of identification are natural, born of karma, and born of error. What does this mean? Let us see. Our familiar and entirely wrong diagram. The witness. The Sanskrit term sakshi. The mind and the body and the world outside. Alright. Now, we said the consciousness is reflected in the mind. So there is a reflected consciousness. This is called the reflected consciousness of Chidabhasa. And in the mind too is the I consciousness. The I thought, the ego. One of the functions of the mind is the ego, which says I. Just now, I. It's in the mind quite clearly. And here is the body, the gross body. And here is the subtle body, which is the mind, the subtle body, and the witness. Now, these are the elements which we have gathered together so far. So far we have learned two things. Only two things. The first thing we did on the first day was to understand the witness. That there is something which is the seer of the world. That is the eyes are seen by the mind, and the mind is being directly illumined by the witness. That's the first thing we learned, the sakshi. The second thing we learned yesterday was this witness is being reflected, this consciousness is being reflected in the mind, and this reflected consciousness is called Chidabhasa. That's what we feel as awareness in our minds all the time. When we are awake, Interacting with the world, thinking, we feel awareness in the mind, sentience, awareness, consciousness. That consciousness which we feel now is reflected consciousness. It's something that we experience. That which experiences the reflected consciousness is the witness. It will make you giddy to think about it. Now, so this is what we have done so far. Now he says, divide the mind into two parts. One is the I, which you feel in the mind, and the other one is the rest of the mind. That's what we saw yesterday. Memory, ideas, feelings, all those things, rest of the mind. And the I. Why did he do that? Why did he divide the mind in this way? Today we are going to learn it now. What he is saying in this verse is this. The I, which I, he has isolated this I to help us. Because after all, we are trying to learn who am I. Now in this verse, focus solely on the I. The vertical I, not this I.
Yeah.
The I feeling, the I thought, the ego thought in the mind. Just focus on that. Now he's saying, this ego thought in the mind, this ego, this is the ego. In Sanskrit, ahankara. This ego is related to the reflected consciousness. It's related to the witness, Atman, Brahman, witness, pure consciousness, whatever you call it. It's related to that, and it's related to the body. Somebody asked, what is the connection of the mind with the pure consciousness? Somebody was asking yesterday. Today you will see the answer. Don't take the whole mind, just take one aspect of the mind, that which is most important to us. Ahankara, I, ego, ami. The aham, the I, in Sanskrit aham. Take that. Now see how is it related to the other aspects of our existence. How is it related to your body? How is it related to the awareness in your mind? Reflected consciousness. And how is it supposed to be related? How is it means the I? How am I related to what Vedanta is telling me, that the real I am pure consciousness. That pure consciousness and the I that I feel in the mind right now, what is the relationship? If I can understand the relationship, I can sort of trace out the real I. If I can understand the relationship between the I which I am feeling and the real I which Vedanta is telling me about, then maybe I can get a clue to how do I go from here to there. So these are the three relationships. What are the three relationships? The I with the reflected consciousness. Sanskrit, ahankara, chidabhasa relationship. Ahankara, body, deha. I related to this body. How am I, the ego, related to this body? And how am I, the ego, related to pure consciousness, the witness? Three relationships. What are these three relationships? Very interesting. Let's see. The three relationships are, he says, ahankarasya tadatmyam, relationship or identification of the I, the ego, with chit chaya, reflected consciousness, number one. Deha, body, number two. And sakshi, witness, number three. What are the relationships? One, sahajam. Two, karmajam. Three, vrantijanyam. Let us understand. In the mind, the relationship of the I with the reflected consciousness, I and reflected consciousness, chidabhasa, let's call it reflected consciousness. This relationship, he says, it's natural. Sahajam means natural. What does it mean, natural? It's like the relationship between your reflected face and the mirror. Bring a mirror in front of yourself. If I have a mirror here, my face will be reflected in the mirror. Now, what is the relationship of that reflected face with the mirror? It's a natural relationship. Whenever there is a reflecting surface, there will be a reflection. Look at the lake. You can see the trees being reflected in the water. What is the relationship, not of the tree with the water, What is the relationship of the reflected tree with the water? It's a natural relationship. That reflected tree is nothing but water. It's just an optical illusion created in the water. So whenever there is a reflecting surface, there will be a reflection. The eye provides the reflecting surface, and consciousness is reflected there automatically. If it sounds complicated, it is not. Look at your own experience. If we look at our own experience, every time I say I feel the I within. Does it not seem to be a conscious I? Yeah, of course. That's all they are saying. Whenever you say I, whenever you think I, it's a conscious I. We never think about this issue at all. It seems most natural. That's what Vedanta is telling us. It is natural. The I reflects consciousness. Yes?
Clarification, Swami. When, in your simile that you just gave, whenever a reflective surface is present, there will be a reflection.
Yes.
Okay, the trees and the lake, how would you repeat again which is the reflective surface?
Absolutely.
In your model?
Absolutely. The reflective surface
yes.
is the I thought, the ego.
The I thought ego, thank you.
In fact, any thought in the mind is a reflective surface. The mind can catch the reflection of consciousness, but here we are concentrating on the ego. Because after all, really speaking, all of us are just interested in ourselves. Ultimately, worldly happiness, misery, everything is about the I.
Yes.
Even spirituality, liberation is still about the I. So let's take the I. Vedanta says, okay, let's take the I. And this I, all they're saying is, have you ever noticed the I is always shining with consciousness? So it's a natural reflection. Whenever you have the I thought, here is I is the reflecting surface. Consciousness is reflected in that. And the original thing is what is being reflected is the witness consciousness. What we are experiencing is the reflection. We are not seeing the real consciousness. We cannot. You are the real consciousness. You are being reflected in your eye. Yes, if you begin to get that, it is stunning. Not only that, if you really begin to get it, a separation will take place. You will step back from the I. This I, let me tell you one thing. This I can never be free. But you, the pure consciousness, can be free of the I. If you just recognize it's a mirror in which you are seeing yourself. You are not it. You are not tied to the mirror. When I see my face in the mirror, I have really nothing to do with the mirror. I have nothing to do with the reflected face also. If the mirror is dirty, the reflected face will be dirty, but I am not affected by it. If the mirror is broken, shattered, the reflection will be shattered. Nothing has happened to me at all. It's the problem of the mirror and the problem of the reflection, not mine. Yes. So that's one. What's the second relationship? Practically, however, whatever philosophy we may study, we generally relate the I to the body. That's our experienced life. Now what is the relationship? You would like to know what is the relationship of the I with the body. The gross body, the physical body, this body. How is my I, ego, related to the body? What does Vedanta say about it? He says it's related, the relationship is of karma. It's born of karma. Because of my past karma, this mind with its I consciousness, with its I ego, because of its past karma, the jiva, the individual here, has got this body, this life, in this particular life. I've got this body. As long as my karma lasts, it's called prarabdha karma, karma which has begun to give results in this life. That has generated this body, and that's giving me a variety of experiences in life. It's not determinism. It determines a great deal of what happens to us, but not really how we react to it. So there is a degree of free will also. I'm just touching upon that. Now, this body, what it is saying is, the I feeling in this mind will be related to this body as long as this prarabdha karma, the karma which has generated this body, lasts. The moment that karma is exhausted, this body will die, and the I will normally go to some other body and be related to that body. It will say, I am this. So it will be a new baby which will say I. The moment this body dies, the jiva, the individual, leaves this body. And the I, the ego in that jiva will no longer be attached to that body, will not feel I am that. You can take it away and burn it or bury it. No problem for me. Because I am not that. So the relationship of the I with the body is purely, I means the ego, with this body is purely born of karma, according to Vedanta. As long as this particular karma which has given rise to this body lasts, it will last. When it is exhausted, the body will die, the I will transmigrate. You remember the water being poured from a broken pot into a new pot? This mind will be poured into a new body, and I will say, I am that body. In the normal course of events, unless you are enlightened. Now, both of these, though they may seem very interesting to us, Vedanta is not concerned with either of them. What Vedanta is concerned with is the relationship of the I with the witness. This I that I am feeling right now, which is most important to me, which is central to my life, what relationship does it have to the Sakshi, the witness, the pure consciousness, Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it? And the answer is most interesting. He says, it has no relationship.
That's what he said.
Or rather,
There's no relationship with
he says,
the mind.
it's an error.
That's what he said.
Bhranti. Bhranti means error. The relationship which seems to be there between the I thought and I myself, the pure consciousness, which seems to be there, is born of error. It is foolishness. There is no relationship.
Because it doesn't exist.
It's a fiction, it's an illusion. There's no relationship with that. The consciousness, pure consciousness, is not related to the mind or to the body. You are not at all related to it. No more than that tree is related to its reflection in the water. No more than your face is related to the reflected face in the mirror. Though it seems to be exactly the same, it's not related. Not at all related.
So is it like a mirage? Is it like a mirage?
It's an illusion, it's an error.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
It's an error is another way of saying there is no relationship. It only appears to be related. Just as the tree which is being reflected in the water appears to be somehow related to the reflected tree. Just as my face somehow appears to be related to the reflected face in the mirror. Appears to be, but really there is no relationship. Yes, there's a question.
But it is born of that source, whereas between the tree and the water, maybe the water is 90% a part of the tree. But in that case, the source is what has created that seeming illusion of
Yes.
water, right?
In fact, we'll come out later if that question, then why is all this happening? So the answer, Vedantins have a very simple answer. They'll call it Maya. Some philosopher says it's impossible to discuss anything seriously with a Vedantin. They will have only two answers, Brahman or Maya. That's it. That takes care of all questions. Any difficult question you put to them, they'll retreat into Maya. But yes, it is the source itself, the witness itself through Maya which has created this entire thing. You have generated your own mirror. You reflected yourself in your own mirror and you delight so much in your reflection that you have forgotten yourself.
It is true.
Rabindranath song, Dai Kumar Anandama.
That is true.
Thank you. There's a beautiful song by Rabindranath Tagore in a devotional strain. He says, I don't know how you translate that. It's addressed to God. O Lord, how you delight in me. That is why you have come, that's why you have incarnated yourself. That's why you have become all of this. All of this is your delight in me. After all, I am nothing but you. You, the Lord, You have generated through your Maya a reflector. Many reflectors, so many reflectors. And you reflect yourself in all of them. And in each of these cases, you have forgotten yourself. And you play the game of life. All Vedanta does is to remind you, the Lord, of your majesty. You can still go on playing. Then it will really be Leela. Leela is a divine play. Before that, it's a nightmare.
Right.
Having forgotten the source, having forgotten ourselves, we limit ourselves to this much, but we have forgotten the reality. And it's terror. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare without end. Wake up from the nightmare. Look at yourself as you truly are and see yourself reflected in all this, and then enjoy the game of life. It's your glory. The universe is your glory. Let me tell you something amazing. When they say, that thou art, this may seem a bit shocking, but listen. That thou art, we understand it, yes. They are telling me that in some sense, I am Brahman or I am God. But the reverse is also true. Follow this carefully. Not only are you actually Brahman, which means you are nothing, you are not the body and mind. You are Brahman. When they say you are Brahman, that means you are not body and mind, what you take yourself to be. But it also means that Brahman is you. Which means this consciousness, this is you. To put it more directly, you are Brahman means you are not body and mind. As Shankaracharya sings, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoha. I am not mind, I am not intellect, I am not memory, I am not the senses, I am not this, I am not that. I am pure consciousness. That's one side of it. The other side of it is Brahman is you, which means there is no Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, God and Father in heaven, Allah, Jehovah. There is nothing except you, the real you. There is no God but you, the real you. The Sakshi. That's the tremendous implication of all of this. Swami Premeshanandaji, there was a senior Swami, he's still alive, in Kashi, in Benares in India. He told me this. As a young boy, he used to visit Swami Premeshananda, who was a disciple of the Holy Mother, who was regarded as a Brahmagyani, realized knower of Brahman in his own lifetime. So this young man who used to visit Swami Premeshananda, who is now a very senior monk, who told me this. One day he went to Swami Premeshananda, bowed down and looked up at him, and Swami Premeshananda, an old man at that time, leaned forward with his finger and touched the forehead like this, just like that. And it was just a very cold touch, so he jerked back in surprise. And Swami Premeshananda said, that which reacted, in Bengali I'll tell you first, oije chomke utlo, o chhada kono shala bhagavan nei. That which reacted in you, other than that, there is no rascal called God. That is the one and only God that is. But by that he does not mean, the ignorant person will take back, what reacted? The body and the mind reacted. But what he means is the consciousness behind the body and mind. The reaction is in the body and mind, but it's because, who is that actually in reality? It's the pure consciousness. He says, other than that, very raw Bengali, kono shala bhagavan nei. And this Swami, who became a monk later on, he told me this himself. It's might sound even sacrilegious to most people. So, that thou art means you are not the body and mind, you are pure consciousness. And God is nothing other than this pure consciousness which you are. That alone is worshipped as the Father in heaven, or the Jehovah of the Jews, or the Shiva of the Shaivites, and the Divine Mother of the Shaktas, and Vishnu of the Vaishnavites, as the Tao of the Taoists, and the state of Nirvana of the Buddhists. That alone. There is nothing else like that except you, the real you. That's the tremendous proclamation of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. Now, We have 20 minutes? Till 12:30. Right. Now, we would like to know, the next thing is, here we have these three. Now we would like to know, how do I snap these relationships? How do I get out of these relationships? I want to file my divorce papers with this. That's what Sankhya philosophy is. Separation of Prakriti and Purusha. How do I do it? So there are, in each case, the process is different. We will see in the 9th verse. Sambandhino sator nasti, Sambandhino sator nasti, Nivritti sahajasya tu, Nivritti sahajasya tu, Karma kshayat prabodhacha, Karma kshayat prabodhacha, Nivartete kramadubhe, Nivartete kramadubhe. What does it mean? This relationship, the natural relationship, consciousness and the I thought, as long as one is there, the other must be there. It's a natural relationship. When the mirror is, there is a reflection. If there is a reflection, there must be the mirror. How do I get rid of this? You have to get rid of both them. And it happens every day in our night and in deep sleep. When the mind shuts down, our ego also disappears along with the mind. Every day in the night. We do not feel I am in deep sleep. We may feel that I dreamt, I was awake. But I am in deep sleep, that nobody feels. If you do feel that, you are not in deep sleep. You're still thinking, the mind is awake. So when the mind shuts down, that's deep sleep. When you turn the mirror upside down and there's no more reflection, that darkness is deep sleep. And the consciousness illumines that shut down condition of the mind. So that is deep sleep, in that neither of them are there. But when one of them is there, the reflector is there, the reflected consciousness also will be there. It's when they're in a natural relationship, the two go together always. When you feel I, you will feel conscious. But that's not important. The second thing is karma kshayat. How do I get rid of this body, if you ask? The only way of getting rid of the body is with the death of the body. And when the body dies, when does it die? At the end of your karma. According to Vedanta, the end of the karma, which produced this particular body. Then remaining karma will produce another body. And then the I will be related to that other body. So karma kshayat, when karma of this particular body is exhausted, then only the relationship between the ego and the body will be snapped. That's what happens at death. At death. When the body, physical death, the I will go to another body. Again, this is not important to us. Vedanta is not interested in these two. Vedanta is interested in this. How do I correct this problem? I seem to be related, the pure consciousness, seem to be related to the mind and the ego. I am this mind and this body. That's the feeling. How do I snap this? This is the purpose of Vedanta. How do you do this? You see, it's a very beautiful, very precise, pinpoint location of what Vedanta is trying to do. What is Vedanta trying to do? It's not trying to separate the ego from the body. No, no, no. That will happen naturally. You don't need Vedanta. Body will go one way. Is it trying to separate the ego from the consciousness in the ego? That also will not happen until the ego goes to sleep. But what it is trying to do is to separate pure consciousness from the ego. The ego will become an object just like this. This is a physical object in front of me. The ego will become a mental object in front of me, the consciousness. How is that accomplished? Well, then what is the nature of the problem? If the nature is error, it can only be corrected by knowledge. Ignorance is corrected only by knowledge. Error and illusion are corrected by knowledge. Only by realizing ourselves as the witness can we snap the relationship between the witness and the I. The error, which is relating us to the I. So he says, prabodha, by awakening. By awakening into our real nature as the witness consciousness, we will get rid of the tendency to identify ourselves with the I, the ego. Will the ego still be there? It will be there. Body will again appear, the world will appear, the mind will appear. Why will the ego not appear? The ego will appear. But then the ego, you will not be the ego. And Sri Ramakrishna puts it beautifully. Then how do you handle the ego which appears after enlightenment? He says the ego does not go away easily. So let the rascal ego remain as the servant of the Lord. And or that's the usual answer we have come across. It's a popular one. But in the little book by Swami Brahmananda which I showed you yesterday, he adds one more thing which is missed. Sri Ramakrishna said, let the rascal ego remain as the ego, as the servant of the Lord. And what is this I? I am the servant of the Lord. That's one alternative on the path of bhakti. Or it says, let it remain as the ego of an enlightened person. I am Brahman. That's normally not associated with Ramakrishna. Swami Brahmananda says that's what Ramakrishna always said. It's there in that book. There's a number of little gems in that book. For example, one of Sri Ramakrishna's sayings, as many faiths, so many paths. Jato mat tato pat in Bengali. Now that's so popular and so oft quoted, especially in India, in Bengal and India. Jato mat tato pat, as many faiths, so many paths. But where did exactly Sri Ramakrishna say, is there any authentic written source? Everybody says that, Sri Ramakrishna said that. It's not in the gospel. And we were searching, where is there any original written source where Sri Ramakrishna is quoted as saying it? And that's there in that little book. Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Brahmananda says, he said, as many faiths, so many paths. Exactly that language. So that's just by the way. So, what Vedanta does is, this verse told us that the I, the ego, which is of interest to us, is related to the body by karma, is related to consciousness because it's a natural reflector, is not related to the witness, the real you. There was this guru who, a student went to this guru in the Himalayas, in the cave where the guru lived, and said, please enlighten me, make me enlightened. The guru at first wouldn't give any teaching, would make the student do all the work. Go and cut the firewood and clean the cave and do this and do that. Go to the village and beg for food and so on and so forth. After a month or two of this, the disciple, the chela, the disciple got disgusted. And he said, sir, if you don't give me the enlightening knowledge, I'm going to look for another guru. And the guru said, oh, you must do that. All right, come tomorrow. Take a bath, put on new clothes and come early in the morning tomorrow. You will be enlightened. And the disciple comes and he finds the guru. There's one big tree outside the cave. The guru is holding onto the tree with all his might and shouting, let me go, let me go, let me go, set me free. The student says, why don't you just let go? And the guru says, no, I'm trapped, let me go, let me go. Just let go of the tree. And he lets go and he says, exactly. To the student he says, exactly. Swami Vivekananda says in his song Sannyasi, thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Let go thy hold, Sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Thine only is the hand, you the witness. You are the only one who is holding on to the eye. Let go thy hold. How do you let go thy hold? By becoming aware of the consciousness that you are and remaining as that, being a witness to the mind and the body. That's the practice which we have been doing. So this verse shows us precisely what Vedanta is trying to accomplish. This is where Vedanta is cutting. Not between the ego and the body. That cannot be cut until the death of the body. But between the pure consciousness and the ego, which can be cut by knowledge. Why can it be cut by knowledge? The relationship is born of ignorance, of error. That which is born by error can be corrected by knowledge. Alright. Now, let me go into a different subject. Switching subjects.
That's too bad. I thought we had to sleep.
Spiritual practice. We are taking a step back from this book now, taking a quick look at the whole domain of spiritual practice in 15 minutes. And remember, this is spiritual practice from the perspective of Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta. Now, Advaita Vedanta tells us you are Brahman. When? Now. Where? Here. Right now. You are Brahman. Well, now our question will be, yes, you are saying that, but I don't realize it, I don't feel it. In order to feel it, in order to realize it, what must we do? That is the first level of spiritual practice. You see, the problem there is, the first level of problem is ignorance. Please walk with me carefully here. The level of problem is ignorance. Advaita Vedanta always says the real problem is ignorance. We do not know who we are. We do not know we are the witness, pure consciousness. That's called ignorance. Ajnana, avidya. And ignorance can be corrected. Solution? Knowledge. After all, what can remove ignorance? I am ignorant of physics. What can remove my ignorance of physics? I must go to the professor and sit with him and study physics, get knowledge of physics. So knowledge will remove ignorance. I am ignorant about my true nature as Brahman. I may read about it from books, but it's not real for me yet. So that must become real, that I need knowledge. Knowledge will remove ignorance. What is the method? Advaita Vedanta says, I use a Sanskrit word, Shravana, Manana, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. English? Study, or literally it means hear. Hear, contemplate, meditate. Hear, contemplate, meditate. Hearing, Shravana. Mananam, contemplate. And that means think about it, reason about it. And Nididhyasanam, meditate about it. Remember, just by the way, it's interesting that these two words have been switched in English. The original meaning of meditation was to think. And the original meaning of contemplation was to meditate. What we call meditation today was contemplation originally. And what we call contemplation today was actually meditation in that time. And so meditate was to think about it. Anyhow, that's a minor point. But in the modern usage of the term, hear these truths, think deeply about it, and meditate. What do each of these have? There are techniques for these. Shravanam does not simply mean that you put on your MP3 player and listen to a lecture. There's a technique of doing that. Very quickly, what does Shravanam accomplish? What does Mananam accomplish? What does Nididhyasanam accomplish? Shravanam, after systematic study of Vedanta, we will be able to say, this is what the Vedantic text says. I'm quite clear about it. I'm clear about what the text says. I can tell you now. Then your Shravanam is complete. After that, what comes? I can tell you what the text says, but I am not convinced. I have got some doubts. When the doubts are reasoned out thoroughly through thinking, through rigorous thinking, I get clarity. When doubts go, I get clarity and conviction. Clarity and conviction. Now I know what the text says and I believe it. I get it. It's real. But still a problem remains. It's still real in the intellect. You understand it, but life goes on as it is. It's not very helpful in life. It must become a living reality. From understanding to a living reality. I see it as a living reality. Waking, dreaming, no more. Effortlessly it should come to me. That is done through nididhyasana, which is a form of meditation. Swami Vivekananda called it assimilation. You read and reflect upon it and assimilate it. Assimilate it. Swami Vivekananda's many of inspiring passages are there, which are passages of assimilation, of nididhyasana. Tell yourself again and again, Soham, I am that, till it tingles with every drop of your blood. What is he saying? What are you doing there? That's meditation. What you are convinced about, what you have reasoned out, what you have studied, now drive it deep into it, to remove the past conditioning. It's not hypnotization. Swami Vivekananda said it's dehypnotization. After all, if you have studied it, if you have understood it, if you believe it to be true, why not make it real? Why not walk the talk? So this is what is going on. Now the problem is, at this stage the problem arises. This is not the end. This is what is called Jnana Yoga. The path of knowledge. The problem will arise is, Swami, all this is very good, but this is like my 5th retreat and I still haven't got, my ignorance hasn't gone. I've been in Vedanta for 30 years, 40 years and my ignorance hasn't gone. So what's the problem? What's holding me up? Vedanta says the problem is that the mind is scattered. Sanskrit, this Sanskrit here is ajnana. What would I say? Restless mind or lack of concentration. That's the best way. Sanskrit, vikshepa. There is a clear term for that. Vikshepa. Even in our day-to-day languages, in Hindi or Bengali, we say vikshipta, vikshipta, vikipta. Vikshepa. This is a yoga term. What is the problem? Mind is scattered, is unable to grasp what is being taught, discussed and meditated upon. There seems to be a lack of illumination in the mind. We are just not getting it, or it's just not becoming real for us. It's because the rays of the mind are not concentrated, they are scattered. Usually it is true for most of us. Our minds are really scattered. And the proof of that is when we try to meditate, the most common question in any spiritual retreat, or in India as well. Swami, I can't meditate, my mind is not, it does not get focused on God. My mind is restless. Arjuna asked that question to Krishna. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna. Mind is restless. So mind is scattered. Once in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna you will find a serious discussion on Vedanta is going on this non-dual path. And Sri Ramakrishna is listening. After listening for a while, he says, in Bengali, I translate, Kotha gulo to bhalo, dharana hawa chai. These words are very good, but they must be assimilated. It must become real for you. And that's not becoming real. Dharana is a term again in yoga. Dharana is holding on to something. We are unable to hold on to it. We touch and go all the time. We may even understand a little bit, but then we very quickly slide back to our old ways, old conditioning ways of functioning. So minds are heavily conditioned. Minds are very scattered. What is the solution for this? Concentration. What is the method for this? Meditation. Or, as we call it, Raja Yoga. Bhakti also comes in here. I will talk about bhakti a little later. But bhakti, from the point of view of the path of knowledge, they will put bhakti here. Devotion to God. I'll come back to that later. Yes.
You said japa is...
Ah, yes, exactly. It comes in here. So japa, visualization of your chosen deity and the repetition of the mantra, they all come in here. Remember, we're talking about the path of knowledge here. So this is where they will put it. It helps you to focus on a divine subject. It trains the mind. So why a deity, why a mantra? Why not straight away the pure witness? Because you can't do it. The only way we can do it is if we can take the witness, pure consciousness, and bring it to this side and make a form out of it. That is what we call the personal God. Something we can think of. We can even conceive of a form and qualities and a name. It's exactly that thing, but with a name and a form. Now we have Krishna or Rama or Jesus or Ramakrishna. Anything. Or the formless God of the Muslims. Anything. But an other. Not my inner self. An other out there whom I can think about. Whom I can objectify in some way. It is not really an object. It's there. It's you. But now we are thinking about it. So meditation. Yet this is not enough. Another problem comes at this stage. Swami, it's all very good. I've taken the mantra. It's been 40 years, 50 years since I got the mantra and I've been meditating. But mostly either I fall asleep or I'm so restless I keep looking at the clock. When is the hour going to be over so I can get up? What is the problem? The problem here is impurity of the mind. The mind is filled with so much sludge, with so much garbage, that the mantra is not entertained. It's not being allowed to do its work. Swami Sarvapriyananda, who started the Vedanta work in South Africa, he tells this funny story. He had a way with words. He would tell so many stories. Did you ever see him?
Yes,
You saw him?
I met him.
Oh, you met him?
In Toronto, yes.
He's a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj.
Yes.
I gathered from all accounts, he was a very interesting
He was very unusual.
unusual Swami, yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, I never saw him, but I have known Swamis who met him. And I read an account he gives. A very funny story he told. What happens at this stage is, the Guru gives you a mantra. He gives us a mantra and he's a deity, this is how you meditate, repeat the mantra as much as possible. It's like you have an apartment in another city, maybe in Toronto or somewhere, and your friend wants to go and stay there, and your apartment is empty, and there's a caretaker there. So you give your friend a note that this is my friend and he should be allowed to stay in my apartment. And you tell your friend, you go there and show it to the caretaker, he'll allow you to stay in the apartment as long as you want. Your friend goes there and he rings the bell, and these 4 hefty, nasty looking guys come out of the house and your apartment. They come out of there and say, yes, well, I want to stay here. Says who? Well, says the owner of this house, here is the note. And those guys, they snatch the note away, look at it, and they tear it into pieces and they grab your friend and toss him out on the street. Now, can you say the apartment is still your own? Only nominally, only formally. Practically, it has been taken over. You have squatters. People are there who have taken over your apartment. Who are they? Desire, kama, anger, krodha. All these nasty guys who are there in the house. And when this poor little mantra goes with a note from you, can I please stay here? And they come and toss him out. That's not mine, that's Vishweshanand. Impurity of the mind. What is the solution? Of course, purity. In Sanskrit it is called Chitta Shuddhi. We have often heard this term, Chitta Shuddhi. Purification of the mind. And that is affected by Karma Yoga. called unselfish action or selfless action. Or let's call it altruistic action. This is karma yoga. Now, by unselfish action, we rub out the root of impurity, which is selfishness. Selfishness is a very narrow thing. It ties us to this biological body. Me and mine. That is rubbed out, that is cleaned by the action of karma yoga, and you get chitta shuddhi. What happens? The impurity of mind goes, and you get purity. With a pure mind, when you sit down with the mantra and conceive and imagine the deity and visualize the deity and meditate, meditation just becomes like that. The Swami in the Himalayas, he says in Hindi, आप समाधि तो आसान है, 2 मिनट में आपको समाधि लगा देंगे. Samadhi, the highest possible concentration in yoga, is easy. I'll give you samadhi in 2 minutes. Really? That sounds like a con job if there was ever one. He says, shart hai ki shuddha chitta rahe. The condition is come with a pure mind. That's the work of a lifetime or lifetimes. So, with a pure mind, when you sit down to meditate, lack of concentration goes just like that, and concentration comes. With a pure and concentrated mind, when you engage in Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, knowledge arises and ignorance is removed, and you realize yourself as Brahman, which you always were, all the time. Now, this is the structure of spiritual practice in the path of Jnana Yoga. Remember, it's not exactly those of you who have been initiated by gurus with mantra. This is not exactly how it has been taught, because our path is somewhat modified from this. This is what you will find in Shankaracharya. To understand Shankaracharya, the structure is very useful. He says, work is useful. After all, Krishna told Arjuna to do work in the Gita. Selfless work. That will give you purity of mind. Will that give you enlightenment according to traditional non-dualism? No. Work will give you purity of mind. Then you have to engage in meditation and bhakti practices. That will give you concentration of mind. Will that give you enlightenment? No. With a concentrated and pure mind, when you come to Vedanta, its action is immediate. You get knowledge. Yes.
Clarification. So, should that chart actually be flipped if you're going to be working, or is it hierarchical?
This is hierarchical, yes.
Okay.
It's hierarchical. So first Karma Yoga.
Level 3, work up.
Yeah, work your way up.
Okay.
So first Karma Yoga, then Raja Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, then Jnana Yoga. Sri Ramakrishna used to say it's a Shesh Katha. All is Brahman. Shesh Katha is the final teaching. That everything is Brahman. Now, important word. In our tradition, which is also a Vedantic tradition, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, we have a different approach. I will not touch upon that. I just mentioned Swami Vivekananda put it very clearly. We all know that famous thing which we keep quoting, that the goal of religion is to manifest the divinity already present within us. And you do it by work, by worship, by psychic control, by knowledge. He calls it philosophy. By philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. That is the whole of religion. Books, temples, doctrines and churches are but secondary details. He says that. Now, if you see that quotation, if you see what Swami Vivekananda said there, he does not seem to follow this hierarchy. He does not say first do work, do a lot of good work and serve the homeless and serve the sick and teach the school kids in Africa or whatever, and then start meditating, come for a mantra and start meditating, and then attend the Vedanta Retreat at Loon Lake. He doesn't seem to say that. He seems to recommend a combination of all of them. He says, first of all, he says, quite uniquely, any one of them can take you to the highest goal, realization. Number one, Vivekananda says that. Number two, he says his recommendation is combine all of them. Why only one? Combine all of them. Now, there is, I can take questions, but there is this article, The Synthesis of Yoga, the Yogas and their Synthesis, by Swami Bhajanananda, who is one of our most erudite and saintly monks in Belur Much, very senior monk. It's a luminous article which goes into the subject of different spiritual practices and their relationships in the light of Swami Vivekananda. It's a detailed article which I have this morning emailed to Dr. Bhatt and also Puravidi. So those of you who want it, you can approach them, you give your email ID, he will forward that article. It's in a PDF form. It's worth going through. It answers a lot of questions. That's one. One more point let me point out. I keep saying this is from the point of view of non-dual Vedanta. Note two things here. First of all, non-dual Vedanta, which is preeminently the path of knowledge, does not dispense with meditation or bhakti or karma. It gives them a place, and an important place, though a lower place in the hierarchy. They say enlightenment, freedom comes from knowledge. But knowledge will come only when you have concentration and devotion and purity of mind. So karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, they have all of them have their place, even if you want to be only a jnana yogi. This is quite different from some of the new Vedanta teachers which you find today popular in the world. New Advaitin, new Vedanta teachers who say all you need to know is, who am I? You are Brahman. See that you are Brahman. Enlightened, that's it. What do I do? Don't do anything. You don't have to do anything. Just be enlightened. And there are a number of these teachers. Some of them are, they have spiritual insight. I think they have that. Some of them at least. They are not just talking. But the thing is, you'll notice in all of their cases, they themselves struggled and did a lot of spiritual practice over many years. And then they had the awakening. And I won't say mistake, but because they are very respected figures. The thing is, after that awakening, they have thrown away the materials, the technology which they used to go get there, and they see it's not necessary. You are already Brahman, and they see that all of you are already Brahman. Why not go straight there? But the thing is, we cannot go straight there. We are stuck in such a place that we have to make our way through this. So that's one point. Traditional Vedanta has a place for karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga. Does not dispense with them. Indeed recommends them. And the other point I wanted to make was, from other schools of thought, if you ask Chaitanya or Ramanuja, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they will not agree with this structure. That also we should keep in mind. There are practitioners of bhakti who will say this is unnecessary. You have only bhakti, it will take you to God.
That is what I was going to ask. That is conflicts with the
Yeah.
last shloka in Bhajagovindam.
Yes.
Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalana Matavadanam Jnana Vihine Sarvamanena Muktirna Bhavati Sarvamanena. So how does that conflict?
That is Shankaracharya. Remember who says that? What does he say? After a long hymn to Krishna, worship Krishna, worship Krishna, worship Krishna. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Prapte sannihite marane nahi nahi rakshati dukhren karane. He saw this, Shankaracharya saw this young boy who was memorizing Sanskrit grammar sutras. One of them is Dukhren Karani. And Shankaracharya had pity on the boy. He says, when death comes, at the point of death, your grammar will not save you. Worship the Lord, worship the Lord, worship the Lord, O fool. Grammar does not save you when you are at the jaws of death. And then this whole hymn is a beautiful hymn to the worship of Krishna. But at the end of that, Shankaracharya says, you may go to pilgrimages, you may take a dip in the Ganges every day of your life, but without knowledge that you are Brahman, there will be no freedom for you in 100 births. That's because it's Shankaracharya. But if you ask Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, if you ask the 100 teachers of Bhakti, Kabir, all of them will say that by devotion to the Lord will give you the knowledge.
Yeah. Ramakrishna said the same thing.
Ramakrishna says the same thing again and again. So that's what another thing I want to put before you, that this is one way of looking at it. Don't be a fanatic about this. Don't be a fanatic about this. There are other ways. Now if you ask Patanjali, he will say meditation alone. We were talking about it yesterday, speaking about it yesterday. Meditation alone will give you freedom. You will realize yourself as pure consciousness apart from body and mind by meditation alone. That's his, it will give rise to knowledge. You don't have to go through the process of hearing and thinking and assimilation. So there are teachers on the path of meditation who will claim by meditation alone you can reach realization. There are teachers on the path of bhakti, devotion, love, who say by the path of love alone you can reach freedom. And there are teachers on the path of even karma yoga. Swami Vivekananda says a perfectly unselfish person will realize God. So those paths are there, and Swami Vivekananda seems to favor that. He says that by any one of these or all of these and be free. But we are studying, so here they will insist on this structure. You will do all this, but the real practice is to come to Loon Lake and sit and listen to these talks. Oh, they are very serious about it. This is Shravana. It's a spiritual practice. In every other study, you have to study, understand, and then start practicing. Here, you have already started practicing by coming to class. Okay. Thank you very much.